This is the percentage of renewable power that Germany gets. In 2000, when the Renewable Energy Act, the legislative core of the Energiewende, was enacted, 6%. 2012, now it's 26%. Arnie will be able to correct me later on the exact amount, but that's overshot the goal. It wasn't supposed to be that high in their goal, what they thought they would be getting. 2020, I believe the goal was 30%. Now they're shooting for 35. They adjusted it because they've been ramping up renewable energy so much. And the ultimate goal, if you look at the official policy of the government, is 80% by 2050. But quite a few people I talked to in Germany, including Hans-Josef Fell, who was the architect of this, said that I asked if he thought that they would meet this ambitious goal of 80% by 2050, and he said, that's not ambitious. Really? 80% by 2050 isn't ambitious? And he said, no, it'll be 100%. We can be at 100% by 2050. And that's the kind of thinking that's gotten Germany where it is today. Deciding that they're going to do something and putting it into policy. The key to the German Energiewende, which translates as energy shift or energy transformation, energy change. There's a lot of different opinions on how that should be translated, but the essence of it is it's a change, and it's a huge change. It's recognized as such. And the way that they're doing it is through policy. They decided what they wanted to do, and they've enacted policies that will allow them to get there. Instead of doing this piecemeal of, well, how can we do this little thing, and then we'll see where we are when we get to that. They bought into this fully. And the core of that, of buying into it fully, and the key to making it work through policy is the principle that everybody in Germany has skin in the game. Whether you're a church or a farmer, or you rent a house, rent an apartment, you can still be part of the Energiewende. Or if you're a large corporation, you can be part of it. It's the most democratized system of energy in an industrialized large nation that I think exists anywhere in the world. And that's one of the keys to making it work, the fact that it's decentralized and democratized. Because it was interesting, almost everybody in Germany who I talked to, you ask about, I did ask, do you believe in climate change? And it was like, do I believe in gravity? There wasn't really any debate in any of the people I talked with. And they literally, Marcus, who I showed you the picture of before, when I told him, well, we have people in the United States who don't believe in it, and in fact, there's a major political party who says they don't believe in climate change. And his reaction was great. He didn't want to offend me. He didn't know if I was joking or not, so he just got very deadpan, and he wasn't sure if he should laugh. He knew, you could see the gears moving in his head. But the point is that everybody can participate in this movement, the Energiewende, the transformation, regardless of your political orientation. Right across the spectrum in Germany, the energy change, renewable energy, has supporters. I talked to people in the main political parties, and of course it's a multi-party nation, unlike the United States, really. We're basically two parties for all practical purposes. And you couldn't tell, I couldn't tell as a foreigner, and probably as a German Arnie would be able to. But I couldn't tell when we were just talking about renewable energy, and they were so gung-ho on it, I couldn't tell what their political affiliation was. And it turned, until I knew, and on some of them, like the speaker for the CDU, the center-right coalition, the major party, speaker for I think he's speaker for the economy now. Joaquin Pfeiffer. Is he the? You know what his
I think
position is?
speaker for energy. Probably.
Energy.
Yeah.
When I was asking about the goals of the Energiewende, he said, well, 35% by 2020, but I bet we'll make it to 40. 40% by then. There are political differences in how they go about it, but because this isn't set up on any kind of litmus test, it was well designed from the beginning to attract people by just giving them skin in the game. They can make money off of it. Anybody in Germany can be a utility. If you put up solar panels, or you get together with a group of friends and invest in solar panels if you don't have a roof, then you'll be paid back by an energy feed-in tariff. I'll explain that in just a second, but I wanted to talk about the three main principles that I took away anyway from my interviews there of the Renewable Energy Act. And the first one was that renewables have grid priority, which just means that if you know when you're going to install solar, or however you're going to do it with renewable energy, you know that anything that you produce, you're going to be paid for. Because renewable energy has priority in the grid over nuclear, over coal, over oil, anything else. That's number one. Renewable energy has grid priority, which is kind of a wonky thing, but on wonky things, these things sometimes rise and fall. Another key element of the feed-in tariff is you get a 20-year contract guaranteed the amount that you'll be paid for each kilowatt hour that you generate. And it's based on the year that you build it, that you install it and have it hooked up to the grid. From that point, for the next 20 years, you will be paid the same amount per kilowatt hour as you knew you would get, as you were promised, when you made the decision to go ahead and put this up. And this does a couple of things. One is it makes sure that for businesses, for anybody who is acting as a business in this sense, you have a guarantee of stability. You know you can cost this out. You know how much you will be making for the next 20 years, so you can tell if this is going to be a good investment or not. The other thing this does is this declines, not necessarily every year, but it could decline every year, the amount that you would get when you put it in, and then you'll get that same amount for 20 years, but you'll get the greatest amount as soon as you do it, the sooner you do it. And that gave tremendous incentive to people to put up renewable energy sources, generators, as soon as possible. That's why Germany has, I think it's 32 gigawatts now of renewable energy, when the U.S. were at 6. I think upper estimates is 5 to 6 gigawatts. They have 80 million people, so it's a much smaller nation. They have 23 times the amount of renewable power per capita as the United States has. And these are some of the reasons. And the third principle of it is that ratepayers pay for these feed-in tariffs. It's not the government that pays. And I wondered about that at first. I talked to Hans-Josef Fell, and he said, oh, this is key. You have to do it this way, because if you include it as a tax and you have the government paying it, then the next finance minister, when he comes in, will say, well, we don't have any money for this, and they'll cut the program. This can't be cut. It's not dependent on the government. It's paid, every German citizen pays each month on their utility bill, on their electric bill, a certain amount for the feed-in tariff, which is, you could see it, I guess, as the negative side of having skin in the game. Everybody participates in this one way or the other in the renewable energy transition in Germany. And if you don't like that you're having to pay it, put some solar panels on your roof, invest with a group of friends to do something similar, and you'll be making money from it instead.